Hi guys, it's Emily from UTT and welcome to this week's Life in the UK. So this week we're going to be having a little look at the structural and political changes that happened across England during the medieval period. So throughout most of the Middle Ages, the King of England had more or less unlimited power. He could do what he wanted at any time, really, without any restriction. Now, this was the case up until the year 1215, when the king at the time, King John, was forced by his noblemen, his most powerful and trusted advisors, to agree to a certain number of demands. So as a result of these demands, a very basic Charter of Rights was established. Now this charter was referred to as the Magna Carta, which translates to the Great Charter. The Magna Carta established the idea that even the king was subject to law. It protected the rights of the nobility and restricted the king's power to collect taxes or make or change laws. So this was very important because in future the king would have to involve all of his closest noblemen and advisors in his political or social decision making. So it's after this point, when the Magna Carta was established, that we begin to see the formation of a more formal parliament. In England, parliaments were called for the king to consult his nobles, particularly when he needed to raise money, say for a war or any other sort of major incident or event. The numbers attending parliament increased and two separate parts, known as houses, were established. The nobility, great landowners and bishops sat in one house, which was the House of Lords, and knights, who were usually much smaller landowners, and wealthier people from towns and cities were elected to sit in the House of Commons. Only a very small part of the population was able to join in electing the members of Commons. Now this is very different today, obviously, because our members of the House of Commons are elected by the people. Almost everyone in the UK above voting age, which is the age of 18, can vote. But this, as I say, was the sort of start of the establishment of modern parliament as we know it today. It's also around this time that Scotland began to develop their own parliament. Now, the main difference between the English parliament and the Scottish parliament was the fact that Scotland had three different houses, or estates as they are known. Those houses were made up of lords, commons, and clergy, or religious members. Now, aside from the development in Parliament, this was also a time of great change for the legal system. The principle that judges are independent of the government really began to be established during this time. In England, judges developed common law by a process of precedence. When we say precedence, we merely mean following previous decisions that were taken in court, and also sort of tradition, morals and values. In Scotland, the legal system developed slightly differently and laws were codified rather than being based on precedents. So when we say codified, we simply mean written down. Now, the final and perhaps most vital change to society during this time was the Black Death, or the Great Plague. As it's a very long and complex topic, it affects society in quite a lot of ways. We're going to be taking a more in-depth look at that subject next week. So check back on our YouTube and WeChat, and I will see you then.